Today was supposed to be the day Nadia dreamed of ever since she was a kid. She was about to get married to Adrian, the man of her dreams and the love of her life. But little does she realize that Adrian wasn't the man she thought he was. As she stood trembling, a truth she never saw coming unraveled, threatening to shatter her perfect day and everything she thought she knew about love. Nadia Blake had always been known for her heart. Born and raised in the small town of Willow Creek, she grew up surrounded by the quiet hum of community life. Her parents, Elias and Ruth, were deeply rooted in their faith and instilled strong Christian values in their daughter. Elias, a skilled carpenter, often spent his days crafting intricate designs for the local church, while Ruth led the choir every Sunday morning. They weren't rich, but they were happy, living in a modest home filled with laughter and love. From an early age, Nadia stood out. She was the type of person who could light up a room with her presence. Her medium brown skin glowed in the sunlight and her curly, dark hair framed her face beautifully. Her almond-shaped eyes, always warm and inviting, reflected her inner kindness. Despite her outward beauty, it was her heart that made her unforgettable. By her mid-20s, Nadia had become a central figure in Willow Creek. As a librarian, she loved helping children discover the magic of books. Outside of work, she volunteered tirelessly at the church, organizing food drives, visiting the elderly, and mentoring teens. But there was one area of her life that felt incomplete: love.
Don't worry, darling.
Her mother would often say.
God's timing is perfect. He has someone special just for you.
Nadia clung to this belief even as she watched her friends marry and start families. Deep down, she knew she wanted more than a handsome face or a charming personality. She wanted a man of faith, someone who would love her for who she truly was and share her commitment to God. Adrian Laird was the kind of man people read about in magazines. As the CEO of Laird Global, a multinational tech and sustainability corporation, he was one of the wealthiest and most eligible bachelors in the country. Tall and lean with sharp features and piercing green eyes, Adrian looked every bit the successful executive. But beneath the surface, he carried a deep sadness. Orphaned in his early 20s after a tragic plane crash took his parents, Adrian had inherited the family empire. Though he excelled in business, his personal life was a different story. Wealth brought admirers, but most of them were drawn to his status, not the man he was inside. He'd been in relationships before, but they always ended up the same way, with heartbreak and betrayal.
I don't know if I'll ever find someone who loves me for me,
Adrian confessed one evening to his closest friend, Daniel Hart, a man he trusted like a brother. They were seated in Adrian's private study, a space filled with reminders of his success, shelves lined with awards, a desk cluttered with business contracts, and a view overlooking the glittering city skyline. Yet all the symbols of his achievements seemed hollow at that moment. Daniel leaned back in his chair, his arms crossed as he studied Adrian carefully.
What do you mean? You're Adrian Laird. You've got everything. A booming company, looks, money, fame. What's the problem?
Adrian sighed, rubbing the back of his neck.
That's exactly it, Dan. I have all of this.
He gestured around the room.
And that's all people see. Women get drawn to me because of what I have or how I look, not because of who I really am. Every time I've tried to build something meaningful, it ends the same way. They're usually more in love with the idea of me than the actual person.
Daniel frowned, leaning forward.
And you're sure it's not just your paranoia? Not every woman's a gold digger, Adrian.
I know,
Adrian admitted, his voice heavy with frustration.
But how do I separate the genuine from the fake? When someone meets me, they already know I'm a billionaire. I've been lied to, used, and manipulated too many times. Even when they seem genuine, there's always this part of me wondering whether they would even look at me twice if I wasn't Adrian Laird, CEO of Laird Global.
Daniel tapped his fingers on the armrest, his expression thoughtful.
You've got a point. When people already know your status, it's hard to tell who's real.
Adrian's voice grew quieter, more vulnerable.
I just want someone to see me, Dan. Not the money, not the name, just me. But I don't even know if that's possible anymore.
Daniel nodded slowly, a plan forming in his mind.
Maybe it is. Maybe the problem isn't that it's impossible. It's that you're going about it the wrong way.
Adrian raised an eyebrow.
What do you mean?
Step away from all this,
Daniel said, gesturing to the opulent study.
Leave the wealth, the status, the fame. If you want to find someone who loves you for your heart, then let them meet just your heart. Go back to basics. Live simply and get out of the spotlight. See what happens when all the noise is stripped away.
Adrian's initial instinct was to laugh, but the more he thought about it, the more the idea resonated. It was bold, risky, and completely outside of his comfort zone, but maybe that's exactly what he needed.
You're serious?
Adrian asked, a spark of curiosity in his voice. Daniel smirked.
When am I not? Look, you've tried everything else. Why not this? Worst case scenario, you learn something new about yourself. Best case scenario, you find her.
Adrian leaned back, staring out at the city lights. The thought of shedding his identity and stepping into a simpler life both terrified and intrigued him. Finally, he nodded.
All right,
He said quietly.
I'll consider it.
Daniel's words stayed with Adrian. After weeks of reflection, he made a bold decision. He would test the idea. He would leave behind his life as a billionaire CEO and create a new identity for himself, a disabled man reliant on the kindness of others. Adrian's new life began in Willow Creek. He rented a modest home on the outskirts of town and introduced himself as Adrian Shaw, a man who'd been paralyzed in a car accident. He explained to the locals that the accident had changed his perspective on life, leading him to focus on charity work and faith. Nadia first met Adrian at a church-hosted youth mentorship program. Adrian was helping distribute materials to the children, his wheelchair parked at the front of the room when Nadia walked in. Her smile was warm and genuine as she introduced herself.
I'm Nadia. It's nice to meet you.
She said, extending her hand. Adrian smiled back, immediately struck by her kindness.
Adrian Shaw.
He replied.
It's a pleasure.
The two spent the afternoon working together. Nadia noticed how patient and encouraging Adrian was with the children, while Adrian admired Nadia's passion and energy. By the end of the day, there was an unspoken connection between them. Over the following months, Nadia and Adrian grew closer. They worked on several church projects together, from organizing food drives to hosting Bible study sessions. Adrian found himself looking forward to every interaction with Nadia. She treated him with respect and kindness, never once making him feel defined by his wheelchair. One evening, after a long day of volunteering, they sat together outside the church. The sky was painted in hues of orange and pink as the sun set.
How do you stay so positive?
Nadia asked.
After everything you've been through?
Adrian hesitated.
I focus on what I can do, not what I can't. Life hasn't been easy, but I believe God gives us challenges to strengthen us.
Nadia nodded, her eyes filled with admiration.
You inspire me, Adrian. It's not about what we have or don't have. It's about how we use what we've been given.
That night, Adrian realized he was falling in love. One of the first bonds they shared was their unwavering faith. Adrian admired how Nadia lived her beliefs daily, from her kind words to her compassionate actions. They began praying together before volunteer events, and those moments became a cornerstone of their relationship.
How do you keep your faith so strong?
Adrian asked one evening. Nadia smiled.
It's not always easy, but I trust that God is working in ways I can't see. That's enough to keep me going.
Her faith inspired Adrian to reconnect with his own beliefs, making him feel closer to God and to her. Adrian, who'd lived a life of luxury, found beauty in the simplicity Nadia loved. Whether it was a walk by the river, sharing coffee at a small cafe, or skipping stones together, every moment felt precious. Nadia often pointed out small details like a butterfly or a wildflower, and Adrian marveled at her ability to see beauty in the mundane.
You notice things no one else does.
Adrian once said.
It's all part of God's creation.
Nadia replied.
You just have to take the time to look.
Their relationship was filled with humor, balancing the deeper, more serious aspects of their bond. Nadia's playful personality often caught Adrian off guard, like when she teased him about being trouble in his wheelchair after he accidentally knocked over a stack of hymnals.
You have a way of keeping me humble.
Adrian laughed.
That's what friends are for.
She teased back. This lightheartedness added warmth to their growing love. As their connection deepened, they began to share their fears and insecurities. Adrian talked about the struggles he faced after his accident, and Nadia opened up about her doubts about finding love.
You are more than enough.
Adrian assured her during one of their heart-to-hearts. Her eyes softened.
You always know what to say, Adrian.
Every interaction brought them closer. Adrian admired Nadia's unwavering faith and selflessness, while Nadia saw Adrian's resilience and strength. They prayed, laughed, and dreamed together, creating a bond that felt unbreakable. One evening by the river, Adrian said softly,
You've changed my life, Nadia.
She smiled, her gaze steady.
And you've changed mine.
While their love grew stronger, Adrian's guilt over his secret also deepened. Each moment of connection with Nadia made him question how she would react when the truth came out. But despite his fear, he couldn't walk away. Nadia had become his greatest blessing. 2 years after meeting Nadia, Adrian knew she was the one. Her unwavering faith, selflessness, and kindness had captured his heart. Over time, their bond had grown so deep that he couldn't imagine life without her. Yet the weight of his secret loomed over him, and he worried about how she would react when she learned the truth. Still, he decided to take the leap, believing that her love for him and his for her would overcome anything. Adrian planned the proposal carefully. He wanted the moment to reflect not just his love for Nadia, but also the simplicity and faith that had been the foundation of their relationship. Adrian chose the church where they had first met. It was the place where their story had begun, where they had worked side by side on countless projects, and where he had first realized she was someone truly special. With the help of Pastor James, Adrian prepared the sanctuary for the evening. Candles flickered softly along the altar, and a small vase of Nadia's favorite white lilies added a delicate touch. On the front pew sat a single piece of folded paper, a note Adrian had written the day he met her. Adrian invited Nadia to the church, telling her he wanted to discuss plans for an upcoming charity event. When she arrived, she was taken aback by the quiet beauty of the candlelit sanctuary. She paused at the entrance, her heart fluttering.
Adrian?
She called softly, stepping inside. Adrian, seated near the altar, turned to face her. His smile was warm but nervous.
Hey, Nadia.
He said.
I wanted to talk to you about something important.
Nadia walked towards him, her eyes scanning the room.
What's all this?
She asked, gesturing to the candles and flowers. Adrian pointed to the folded piece of paper on the pew.
Before I say anything, I need you to read this.
Curious, Nadia picked up the note and unfolded it. Her hands trembled slightly as she began to read. The note was dated the day after they had first met, 2 years earlier. The note read the following. Dear Nadia, today I met someone who reminded me that there is still light and goodness in the world. You didn't just introduce yourself, you radiated kindness and warmth. You didn't see a man in a wheelchair. You saw a person, and you treated me with a kind of respect and care I haven't felt in years. In the short time we spent together, you changed something in me. You made me want to be better, to live with purpose and faith again. I don't know where this journey will take us, but I thank God for bringing you into my life today. As Nadia finished reading, tears welled up in her eyes. She clutched the note to her chest and looked at Adrian, her voice trembling.
You wrote this the day we met?
Adrian nodded, his gaze steady.
I did. You were so full of kindness and faith. That day, I didn't just meet you. I met the woman who would change my life.
He took a deep breath and wheeled closer to her.
Nadia, you've shown me the kind of love I never thought I'd find. You've brought joy, faith, and hope back into my life. Will you marry me?
Adrian held a small velvet box and opened it to reveal a delicate gold ring with a single diamond. Simple, elegant, and timeless, just like her. Nadia was momentarily speechless, overwhelmed by the emotions coursing through her. She looked at Adrian, the man who had become her best friend, her partner in faith, and the love of her life.
Yes.
She finally whispered, her voice thick with emotion, then louder.
Yes, Adrian. I will marry you.
A radiant smile spread across Adrian's face as he slid the ring onto her finger. Nadia knelt down, wrapping her arms around him in a tight embrace, tears streaming down her cheeks.
You've changed my life too,
she whispered in his ear. Pastor James stepped forward, having quietly witnessed the proposal from the back of the sanctuary.
God has truly brought the two of you together,
he said with a smile. Adrian looked at Nadia, his heart full.
I promise to love you with everything I have, every day, for the rest of my life.
For Nadia, the proposal wasn't about the candles or the flowers. It was about Adrian's heartfelt words and the love they shared. It was a moment of pure, unfiltered joy, one she would carry with her forever. Finally, the day of the marriage was here. The church was adorned with delicate white lilies, Nadia's favorite flower, the sweet fragrance filling the air. The soft glow of candles aligned the pews, casting a warm golden light across the sanctuary. The gentle hum of quiet conversation among the guests filled the room as they waited for the ceremony to begin. The atmosphere was one of love, faith, and anticipation. The pews were packed with family, friends, and members of the community who had come to witness the union of two souls they had grown to admire. Many of the guests were from the church, people who had watched Nadia and Adrian's love story unfold over the past 2 years. They whispered among themselves about how perfect the couple was for each other, how their love seemed divinely orchestrated. Adrian sat at the altar in his wheelchair, his posture tense with nervous excitement. He wore a simple yet elegant grey suit that complemented his lean frame. His sharp green eyes scanned the room, but they kept darting toward the double doors at the back of the church. His hands rested on the armrests of his wheelchair, his fingers drumming lightly as he tried to steady his nerves. The soft strains of the wedding march began to play, and the room grew quiet. All heads turned as the large wooden doors at the back of the church creaked open. The sunlight streaming in created a halo effect, and when Nadia stepped through, time seemed to stop. Nadia was a vision of grace and beauty. She wore a lace gown with intricate floral embroidery that seemed to shimmer as she moved. The fitted bodice flattered her figure, while the skirt flowed around her like a soft cloud. Her curly hair was styled in loose waves that cascaded over her shoulders, and a delicate veil trailed behind her. Her makeup was minimal, allowing her natural glow to shine through. She held a bouquet of white lilies and baby's breath, her hands trembling slightly as she gripped the stems. Her heart pounded in her chest, but her face radiated joy and peace. Her almond-shaped eyes scanned the room, searching for Adrian. When their gazes met, a radiant smile spread across her face, and her steps became more confident. Adrian's breath caught in his throat. She was breathtaking, more beautiful than he'd ever imagined. His green eyes glistened with unshed tears as he watched her make her way down the aisle, her father Elias by her side. He could barely process the emotions flooding his heart, love, gratitude, and an overwhelming sense of unworthiness. As she approached, Adrian's tears spilled over, and he quickly wiped them away with a trembling hand. He couldn't take his eyes off her. To him, she wasn't just beautiful, she was the embodiment of grace, kindness, and faith, the woman who had shown him the power of unconditional love. When Nadia and her father reached the front of the church, Elias turned to her, his face filled with pride and emotion.
"Take care of her,"
he said softly to Adrian, placing Nadia's hand in his. Adrian's voice was barely above a whisper as he responded,
I will. Always.
As Nadia stood beside him, she noticed the tears glistening in his eyes. She reached out and gently squeezed his hand, her smile reassuring. In that moment, everything felt perfect, but Adrian knew he couldn't let the ceremony continue without telling her the truth. Adrian's heart raced as he glanced at the pastor who was about to begin the ceremony. He couldn't do it. He couldn't let them exchange vows without Nadia knowing everything. The secret he had carried for so long was too heavy to bear any longer. He took a deep breath, his hand tightening around hers. His voice, though steady, was filled with emotion as he spoke.
Nadia, before we go any further, there's something I need to tell you. I can't marry you without being completely honest.
The room felt silent. Guests exchanged confused glances, and Nadia's brows furrowed slightly as she looked at him.
What is it, Adrian?
She asked softly, her voice tinged with concern. Adrian gazed into her eyes, his love for her overpowering his fear. He knew this moment would change everything. He just prayed it wouldn't destroy what they had built together. Adrian took a shaky breath, his hands trembling as he held Nadia's. The room was so quiet that the sound of the candles flickering seemed amplified. Every guest was leaning forward, confused yet captivated by what was happening.
Nadia,
Adrian began, his voice thick with emotion.
I've kept something from you, something important, and before we exchange vows, you deserve to know the truth.
Nadia's smile faltered, concern flashing in her eyes.
Adrian, what are you talking about?
She asked, her voice soft but steady. Adrian glanced at the pastor, who nodded in silent encouragement, then returned his gaze to Nadia.
I'm not the man you think I am, at least, not entirely. My name is Adrian Laird, not Adrian Shaw. I'm not disabled. I'm not an ordinary man living a simple life. I'm the CEO of Laird Global, a multinational company, and this wheelchair...
He hesitated, gripping the armrest tightly before forcing himself to continue.
It was part of a life I created to find someone who would love me for who I am, not for what I have.
Gasps rippled through the crowd as the weight of his confession sank in. Nadia stepped back, her hands slipping from his. Her bouquet trembled in her grasp, and her face pale as she stared at Adrian.
You lied to me?
She whispered, her voice laced with disbelief and hurt. Adrian wheeled forward slightly, his green eyes pleading with hers.
I didn't do it to hurt you, Nadia. I did it because I've been hurt so many times before. I needed to know that your love was real, that you loved me, not for my wealth or status.
Her chest heaved as she tried to process his words.
So all this time, the man I thought I knew wasn't real?
No.
Adrian said quickly, his voice breaking.
The man you know is real. Everything I said, everything I felt for you was true. The only lie was my name and my circumstances. Nadia, the love I have for you is as real as it gets.
Tears welled up in Nadia's eyes. She turned away, clutching her bouquet slightly, her mind racing. Memories of their shared moments flashed before her. Their prayers, their laughter, the countless ways he had supported and cared for her. Could she separate the deception from the love they had built? The guests were visibly shocked, whispering among themselves. Some shook their heads, while others leaned in to comfort each other. Nadia's parents exchanged worried glances, unsure of how their daughter would respond. Pastor James cleared his throat gently, stepping forward.
Perhaps we should take a moment.
No.
Nadia interrupted, turning back to face Adrian. Her voice was steadier now, though her tears continued to fall.
I don't need a moment.
She looked at Adrian, her expression a mix of pain and clarity.
Adrian, you should have told me the truth from the beginning. You should have trusted me enough to let me decide for myself.
I know.
Adrian said, his voice filled with regret.
I was afraid. I didn't want to lose you. But I see now that by hiding the truth, I almost did anyway.
Nadia took a deep breath, her tears slowing as she searched his face. Despite the betrayal she felt, she also saw the man she had come to love. The man who had supported her, encouraged her, and shown her what true partnership could look like.
I won't pretend I'm not hurt,
She said, her voice soft but firm.
but I also know the man I fell in love with, and I believe that man is still sitting in front of me. Adrian, I love you, but if we move forward, there can't be any more secrets.
Adrian's eyes widened with hope.
No more secrets, I promise you, Nadia. From this moment on, you'll know everything. You have my word.
Nadia stepped closer, placing her hand back in his.
Then let's do this.
She said, her voice steady now.
Let's start our life together with honesty and love.
The room erupted into applause, some guests wiping away tears as they witnessed the couple's heartfelt reconciliation. Adrian looked at her, his heart bursting with gratitude.
Thank you.
He whispered.
Thank you for forgiving me, for giving us a chance.
With the tension broken, the pastor resumed the ceremony. As Nadia and Adrian exchanged their vows, their words carried even more weight, filled with vulnerability and a renewed sense of commitment.
Nadia,
Adrian said, his voice trembling.
I promise to love you with all that I am, to honor you and to walk with you in faith. You've shown me what unconditional love looks like, and I will spend the rest of my life showing you how much you mean to me.
Nadia smiled through her tears as she responded.
Adrian, I promise to love you, even when it's hard. I promise to forgive when it's needed and to trust in the path God has for us. You have my heart, now and forever.
The pastor pronounced them husband and wife, and as they kissed, the room filled with cheers. The guests erupted in applause, moved by what they had just witnessed. Nadia beamed, her heart swelling with pride and love. Don't miss out on more heartwarming moments. So make sure to like, share, and subscribe for your dose of inspiration.
Christian man accused of breaking into his own house. What the officer did next shocked everyone.